All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources. Will the committee secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Considine.
Present.
DeLong.
Present.
Gurr.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Jackson. Karas.
Here.
Kasama. LaRue Hatch.
Here.
Marzola. Watts.
Here.
Chair Anderson.
Thank you, and I am present. If you would please mark Assembly members Kasama and Marzola present when they arrive. I want to welcome everyone to this meeting, those here in Carson, as well as anyone joining us in Las Vegas or in Elko or listening online. On today's agenda, we have a work session and one bill hearing. I'm so sorry, 2 bill hearings. Sorry, I knew I had a mistake there. But first, just a few housekeeping announcements. Please silence all electronic devices while in the committee room. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and exhibits. Please not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we may not agree with another person's position. All exhibits, amendments, or other meeting materials must be submitted electronically to our committee member by no later than 12 p.m. on the business day before the hearing, and 15 hard copies should be provided for members of the public. Proposed amendments also need to include the bill number, a statement of intent, and your name and contact information. When testifying in person, please remember to turn on the microphone and clearly state and spell your name. Please also state for the record any organization or agency you are representing. Finally, public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes, and you may also submit written testimony or public comment in writing up to 24 hours after the meeting. And finally, please note that agenda items may be taken in a different order than listed, but today I think I am actually pretty much going in order, so hey. Imagine that. So we're actually going to start off with the work session. As a reminder, it is not customary for the committee to take testimony or rehear bills during a work session. I may, however, invite a bill sponsor or a witness who's worked on something to come forward to make clarifications on the bill, to answer questions during our considerations of a measure. So we'll begin with Assembly Bill 59. Will you please go ahead?
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Becky Peratt, Legislative Council Bureau, for the record. As a reminder, as nonpartisan committee staff, I can neither advocate for nor oppose any of the measures that come before this committee. Assembly Bill 59 expands game wardens' scope of enforcement authority, revises provisions related to the intentional feeding of certain wildlife, expands the definition of trophy big game mammal, and eliminates the State Board of Agriculture permits related to alternative livestock. The bill is sponsored by the Committee on Natural Resources on behalf of the Department of Wildlife. Director Janae presented on this bill. It was heard on February 26th. There is an amendment to this bill to include any bird feeder within 100 feet of a private residence as an incidental or unintentional feeding of wildlife. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I did want to also thank the Vice Chair, as well as I think there were 2 other members of this committee who worked on trying to get that language together. So want to thank you for all of that, the amendment work on that. Are there any discussions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass a, okay. Great. Sounds like I've got a motion from Assemblymember Gurr, a second from Assemblymember Karas. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion has passed unanimously. Is there anyone interested in offering this floor statement? Oh, Mr. Gurr, you already have one, don't you? I'll give you another one, though. Thank you, Mr. Gurr.
You're being overly generous.
I'm aware of this fact. Don't you forget it. All right, so next we'll move on to Assembly Bill 104. Ms. Peratt?
Assembly Bill 104 statutorily establishes the Nevada Conservation and Recreation Program, the Nevada Voluntary Water Rights Retirement Program, and the Account for Retiring Water Rights, all administered by the Director of DCNR. The bill also contains other water-related provisions, such as declaring as a matter of state policy the encouragement and promotion of traditional and emerging methods of water reuse, and authorizing the State Environmental Commission to establish a water quality standard variance in accordance with federal law. The bill is sponsored by the Committee on Natural Resources on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources. Chair Anderson, Mr. Alan Biaggi, and Mr. Andy Belanger presented on this bill. It was heard on February 24th. There are 3 amendments to this bill. The first amendment, amongst other provisions, deletes the establishment of the Advisory Committee for the Water Rights Retirement Program and deletes the requirement related to the adoption of regulations. The second amendment clarifies that the water rights eligible for retirement under the program are vested or certificated rights. The third amendment relates to excessive use charges established by SNWA member agencies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And before we actually go into, I know that there might possibly be some other questions. So I would ask that Mr. Bellinger, if you are in Vegas, if you could come on up. And I thought there you are. I knew there was some place that people could hide in that room. If you could please explain a little bit about the Second Amendment, the proposed Second Amendment, which has to do with inserting language to clarify that the water rights eligible for retirement under the Nevada Voluntary Water Rights Retirement Program are vested or certificated rights. If you could explain that a little bit further.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Andy Belanger with the Southern Nevada Water Authority. For your record, the Second Amendment would limit the types of water rights that could be retired under a water rights retirement program to only vested or certificated rights. Based on the hearing testimony, we heard that there was concern about making sure that the program addressed wet water and not water that was just on paper. And one of the ways we thought would be best to make sure that that happened was to include the words vested or certificated, because it would mean that the rights were proved up, that someone filed a proof of beneficial use in order to get the certificate, or the rights were vested, and that at one point the rights were used. If permitted water rights could be retired, then you don't have that assurance that the right was at one point used. And so in hearing that information, we wanted to make sure it was clear on the record that that the rights had to have at least been used once in order for them to be subject to a water right retirement program. Now, I recognize that that doesn't mean that the rights are currently used. There probably are certificated rights, maybe a lot of them that are not currently being used, but at least it was used once. So thank you, Chair Anderson.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any other discussions before we take a motion? I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved.
Great. Okay, I have a motion from Vice Chair LaRue Hatch, a second from Assemblymember Watts. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of amend and do pass AB 104, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion has passed unanimously, and I will take that floor statement. All right, next up is AB 136.
Assembly Bill 136 is sponsored by Assemblymember Considine and was heard on March 5th. The bill requires animal shelters and certain animal-related establishments to post certain notices. There are 3 amendments on this bill. Amongst other provisions, the amendments remove animal shelters from the notice posting requirement, revise the notice verbiage, clarifies the commercial establishments subject to the notice posting requirement, revises the posting location for the required notice, and clarifies the size of the notice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions on AB 136? Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask the bill sponsor if it was the intent of the bill to exclude agritourism such as cattle auctions, horse shows, 4-H, rodeos, et cetera.
Assemblymember Karas, oh my gosh, Considine, would you like to? Assemblymember Karas, you want to give it a try? No, Assemblymember Considine.
Thank you, Chair. No, the intention was not for this to be required in the instances you just mentioned.
Thank you for that. That's good to hear, and maybe there could be an amendment either on the floor or in the Senate that addresses that. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 136. Thank you. I have a motion from Assemblymember Watts and a second from, this time, Assemblymember Karas. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion has passed unanimously. Assemblymember Considine, would you like to do the floor session?
Thank you, Chair.
Floor statement. Floor station too, why not? And I do believe we're up to AB 165.
Assembly Bill 165 is sponsored by the Committee on Natural Resources on behalf of the Outdoor Education Advisory Working Group. Assemblymember Mosca, Mr. Sean Thornton, and Mr. David Beard presented on this bill. It was heard on March 3rd. The bill establishes the Outdoor Education Council and its duties and requires the Division of Outdoor Recreation to provide certain administrative support to the council, amongst other provisions. There is an amendment to this bill, which includes legislative representation on the council and removes the requirement for the division to provide administrative support to the council, and instead provides for them to provide administrative support to the extent possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding AB 165? Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you again, Chair. Given the push this session to limit the number of boards, commissions, et cetera, this bill does set up another board or commission. Is there some reason that the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation couldn't have handled these tasks that are outlined in the bill versus creating a new board or commission? And we may not be able to answer that, but I did want to get that on the record.
Thank you so much. And again, just a reminder, it's not a rehearing of the bill. However, I do not see the sponsor, but we will get that information for you.
Thank you.
I do, if I'm remembering the bill correctly, though, I do think something similar to that was asked during the presentation. I could be off on that, and I do not wish to misrepresent.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Assemblymember DeLong, or
We're both old guys on the end of the table.
that other guy at the end of the table.
With that in mind, I'm gonna vote yes to get it out of committee, but reserve the right to vote no at a later date, when it comes to the floor if necessary.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 165. I have a motion from Vice Chair LaRue Hatch, a second from Assemblymember Watts. Any further discussion? Assemblymember DeLong.
I'm going to ditto Assemblyman Gurr's statement.
Any other further discussions? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Hearing none, that is passed unanimously. And I will ask Assemblymember Mosca to do the floor statement. And finally, AB 251.
Assembly Bill 251 is sponsored by Assemblymember Koenig. The bill was heard on March 12th. In addition to Assemblymember Koenig, Director Goycochea, and Ms. Shada Sanjada from the Nevada Department of Agriculture presented on the bill. This bill revises definitions related to mobile processing units and official establishments for animal processing. There is an amendment to this bill. Amongst other provisions, the amendment provides a new definition for official establishment, revises the definition for custom processing establishment, and provides that regulations adopted by the state quarantine officer must include certain items. The amendment also revises the effective date. For the committee's information regarding that effective date, Budget Account 3194 is a budget account within Environmental Health Services of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. Decision Unit E905 refers to a request to transfer 12 positions and the associated operating costs related to food inspections from Environmental Health Services, Budget Account 3194, to the Department of Agriculture's Dairy Fund, Budget Account 4470. This budget account was discussed during the February 19th, 2025 meeting of the Senate Committee on Finance and Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, Subcommittee on Human Services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding AB 251? I do have one, if the director is willing to come to the table, even though you're trying to hide, if you're able to do so. I recognize that this is a policy committee. However, there was a fiscal note to this, Does this amendment satisfy or allow for then the removal of the fiscal note?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Director Goycochea, for the record, Nevada Department of Agriculture. So as long as that decision unit is passed in HHS's budget, then we would remove this fiscal note. Without that happening, we will not have the resources to carry this forward.
Thank you so much, Director, for coming up to the table to explain that to us a little bit further. Greatly appreciate it. Are there any other questions regarding AB 251? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 251.
Second.
I have a motion from Assemblymember Considine, a second from Assemblymember Watts. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion is passed unanimously by the members present, and I'm sorry, that should have been clear for all of the bills. Again, they passed unanimously with the members present. I will ask Assemblymember, let's just give it to Mr. Koenig to do the floor statement. Thank you so much for all the work on the work sessions. Next, we'll go into Assembly Bill 429, which is our first bill hearing today. I'd like to thank our presenters for joining us today. I believe it's Mr. Tibbetts, Assemblymember Watts, and then I believe there's somebody that's joining us by Zoom, hopefully. So you may begin whenever you are ready on AB 429.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Howard Watts, representing Assembly District 15. It's my pleasure to present this bill for your consideration today. I'll give a very brief overview of it. As you can see, it's a short bill. This bill came out of conversations in the interim about potential updates to our conservation easement law. Conservation easements are a valuable voluntary conservation tool that have been used in the state. Our statutes were adopted in 1983 using a Uniform Conservation Easement Act at the time. But like with all things, times continue to change. So ultimately, one of the main things that came out of that conversation was identifying the need to just clarify the existing statute, and that's largely what this bill does. It essentially kind of reorganizes and makes clear that any entity, including state and local government entities, have the ability to participate in conservation easements for the lands that they hold title to. So that is essentially what the bill seeks to do. The amendment, there is an amendment. The amendment seeks to add an additional word that's commonly used in the conduct of conservation easement transactions. And with that, I'll turn it over to my co-presenters.
Please, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jake Tibbetts. I'm the Natural Resources Manager for Eureka County. And as I've been working in the conservation space for many years, there's various shades of state and local agency involvement in conservation easements. And it just hasn't been this interim. Just over the last few years, I've heard of issues related to state government entities' role not being clear in NRS 111. And there have been a couple circumstances where this has created some cold feet, I guess you could say, in getting an easement in place. So it's a very simple bill seeking to just make that clear, provide some certainty and durability for current and future conservation easements. And Madam Chair, Alicia Reban, she's the Executive Director of Nevada Land Trust. They're one of the experts in these matters. They're often the third party that enters into purchases these easements and works. And I think she's on Zoom and may be able to provide some clarity on easements and how this bill can help in some of the areas they work in. Thank you.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready to provide that clarity for us, would greatly appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm here primarily to answer any questions that come up. I believe we've heard the definition of a conservation easement, which is a permanent protection tool for conservation of land for a variety of reasons, for recreation, for protecting working lands, protecting wildlife habitat, et cetera. It is a tool that makes a great deal of sense in our state when we are looking to minimize the addition of public lands, and conservation easements keep land in private ownership, or in the case of what we were discussing, local or state government ownership, and essentially take the development rights from a piece of property and hand those to a third party for safekeeping. The holder of the easement pledges to monitor, steward, and enforce the terms of the easement. So it is really a very strong tool for conservation, especially, as I mentioned, in Nevada. And we agree that some clarification is warranted. We're seeing a number of, as part of the broader land trust community, a number of local governments, especially, wanting to ensure that there is some kind of backstop that protects public spaces, parks, oftentimes, or trails, things like that. And having a conservation easement over the top of a public place provides that greater level of protection in perpetuity, which is a very long time. Currently, local, state agencies, obviously federal as well, but local and state agencies have the ability to hold conservation easements, and they often receive those easements at the same time they receive land. So in the case of Nevada Land Trust, working with various partners across the state, we will close on a particular acquisition, and we may reserve or retain a conservation easement as that extra layer of resource protection. It's all voluntary. These agreements are developed in concert with the landowner. And I think we want to ensure that an agency who is thinking about the future clearly understands that they have the ability to not only receive, but to help create that on lands that they already own and manage. So.
Thank you. Howard Watts for the record. Thank you, Ms. Ruben, for that information. The Nevada Land Trust just had a great film screening this weekend to raise funds to help support their work, and I had the opportunity to attend. It was a great time. I always hesitate to say that a bill is simple, unlike my colleague to the right here, but I think it is pretty straightforward. And again, it's about just making sure that there's absolute clarity that any land owner in the state has the ability to enter into these agreements to preserve the character of lands and ultimately of communities. So I think that concludes our presentation. We're glad to take any questions the committee may have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I would echo the statement to never say the word simple. So thank you so much. I know that we do have a few questions. Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. My question is actually probably going to be one to legal, but just wanted to state, thank you for the presentation. The bill makes sense. The amendment seems appropriate. And so my legal question is, just reading this, that we're now including state and local government explicitly in this. I think the language, particularly if you read subsection 2, you have to have the landowner agree to the easement. You can't have the government just say, we're gonna create an easement on a piece of land without the landowner agreeing to it. Is that a correct interpretation of this?
I will be asking our attorney in Las Vegas to be able to explain that, unless the assembly member would also like to pontificate about this first.
Howard Watts for the record. I mean, I'll just say, yes, so conservation easements are voluntary agreements entered into with the landowner. So we're particularly trying to clarify that in the event that a governmental entity is the landowner, that they have the same access to that as any other entity. But you are correct. So if in any way a governmental entity is involved in the creation of a conservation easement, but it's with a private landowner, fundamentally that has to be something that is agreed to voluntarily by the landowner themselves.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. And then, Mr. Cronister, did you want to add in any more, or that kind of get to the point?
Thank you, Chair. Jeff Cronister, Committee Counsel for the record. I just echo the thoughts of Assemblymember Watson. That sounds correct. It is my understanding that a large component of adopting the underlying act here is it allows for greater flexibility amongst parties to agree to different terms within the easement. So yes, it is documented in writing exactly what the easement entails, and it is up to the parties to determine those provisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I do have one. I just want to make sure that it's clear that when it says any agency or instrumentality thereof, that could include a university property, or that could include, obviously it's a township, I would think, but does that also include items that are actually under the control or ownership of the Board of Regents or school district?
Howard Watts for the record. I think so is the best answer I can provide. I think so. I think the language, we tried to craft the language to include all state and local entities, because within state and local governments and agencies themselves, there are also other bodies that are creations of the state or of local governments that don't necessarily fit just within the governmental body category themselves.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Jake Tibbetts for the record, and that is the intent, that it would apply to any state entity, any local entity, special districts, any entity of the state, whether they're state or local.
Thank you. Well, nice, succinct. I'm not going to use the other S word. Thank you so much for the presentation. Next, we will hear testimony on AB 429. Just as a reminder, please remember to clearly state and spell your name for the record. Testify in support if you support the bill in its entirety. Even if you're opposed to just one little word or a comma, please make sure to testify in opposition. Please limit testimony to 2 minutes, and please keep your comments to the substance of the bill. Call information can be found on the agenda. We will begin testimony in support of AB 429, first here in Carson City.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Christy Cabrera-Georgeson, Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. We are here in support. Conservation easements are an important tool to protect our lands, and this will help provide durability with those. So we urge the committee's support. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else from Carson, come on up. Anybody in Las Vegas? Elko? How about AVH?
To testify in support for Assembly Bill 429, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. Next, we will hear testimony in opposition of AB 429. Anybody here in Carson City? Las Vegas? Elko? AVH.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 429, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in opposition.
Thank you. Now let's move on to neutral. Is there anyone wishing to testify who is neutral on this measure here in Carson City? Las Vegas? Elko? AVH.
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 429, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you so much. That concludes the testimony on this bill. Would you like to make any closing remarks? Okay, saying no. I will close the hearing on AB 429, and we will take a brief recess as I turn the gavel over to the vice chair.
We'll call this meeting back to order. We will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 487, which revises provisions relating to the sale of certain pets. Chair Anderson, thank you for presenting today, and I will let you go ahead and introduce your co-presenters and begin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Chair LaRue Hatch. Good afternoon. As members of the Assembly and Natural Resources, my name is Natha Anderson. It's my honor to represent Assembly District 30. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Goff as well as Warren Hardy, who are both from the Humane World for Animals, formerly known as the Humane Society of the U.S., to help present AB 487. Before I begin, though, I just, you all can do the karaoke if you really feel the need to listen to Sarah McLachlan's music. I prefer that you don't. We did not do a PowerPoint on purpose for that very reason. However, this information was brought to me in December, and when I was hearing about it, and I'm sure that many of us that might have seen some of the news as well, that was pretty prevalent in the Las Vegas area, it would be very upsetting to see some of these images, because many of us have fur babies and other animals that are an incredibly important part of our lives. And so AB 487 is actually bringing up some information that's very sad that we are in this situation. The specific situation is, you think it's just a one-time thing, but then when you start to really look into it, 8 other states, as well as 500 cities and counties, including Clark, Reno, Nevada, our North Las Vegas area, have all enacted similar laws in their municipalities. And so this language is being brought forward instead to kind of stop the, I guess, hopping of different areas, and to be able to deal with this issue in a statewide basis. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mrs. Goff.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Chair LaRue Hatch and members of the committee. My name is Rebecca Goff, and I'm the Nevada State Director for Humane World for Animals, formerly known as the Humane Society of the United States. On behalf of Humane World for Animals and our Nevada supporters, I'm proud to present AB 487, which would phase out the sale of dogs and cats in pet shops and public places. I'm just going to quickly walk through the bill. Section 1 merely states we're amending Chapter 574. Section 2.1 is a prohibition of the sale of dogs and cats in pet shops. 2.2 clarifies that stores can still host adoption events with shelters and rescues. 2.3 states that a person who knowingly violates this section is guilty of a misdemeanor. We are concerned that requiring a violation to be committed knowingly could be an enforcement barrier and feel it's unnecessary here, given that other provisions in Chapter 574 do not include this requirement. We also feel that the language in this subsection referring to a person responsible for the operation of a pet shop is vague and would be clearer if pet shop operator was the term used. So we suggest that our amendment clear language for this subsection that also removes knowingly. 2.4 states that each state creates a separate violation and that an additional penalty could be that the person loses the ability to sell dogs and cats at all as a breeder or dealer for not more than 1 year, and 2.5 defines animal rescue organizations. Section 3 prohibits the sale of dogs and cats in public places like street corners clarifies it doesn't apply to adoption events held by shelters and rescues, and again defines animal rescue organization. This section doesn't include parking lots, which is a key place puppies are sold. We recommend amending this section to include parking lots and clarify that all these places are public places. The remaining section just makes tweaks to the current law, since the sale of dogs and cats at retail would be banned under this bill, and some tweaks with existing definitions. We are concerned that the definitions of dealer in Section 6 and retail pet shop in Section 8 are too similar and could apply to the same entities, which could lead to a loophole in other states that we've seen where they claim they're a dealer instead of a pet shop and thus continue selling puppies. So in our amendment, we suggested a narrow definition. Due to the serious animal welfare and consumer protection issues posed by puppy selling pet shops, as Assemblywoman Anderson mentioned, 8 states, including the entire West Coast, and nearly 500 localities, including Clark County, Reno, North Las Vegas, and Mesquite, have prohibited the sale of puppies in pet stores. Henderson has barred any new stores from selling puppies, and Las Vegas attempted to address the problem with regulations, but increased transparency in Vegas has merely exposed just how awful the puppy mill pipeline is. It's crucial that this issue be tackled statewide rather than patchwork of ordinances. After Clark County's ordinance went into effect, some of the stores merely moved out of unincorporated Clark County into Las Vegas city limits. If Vegas then stopped the sale of puppies in pet shops next, you'd have stores still going over to the next town to try to reach that same market. And there's nothing stopping a multinational chain like Petland from opening a store in Incline Village or Sparks or any other city in our state. So, what are the main issues that this bill addresses? Number 1, puppy mills. The data doesn't lie. Public records show that Nevada puppy stores import puppies from awful Midwestern puppy mills that no consumer would knowingly support. I'm happy to share these records, including inspection photos, but as we've said, they are very hard to look at, but I can make them available at your request. Deception. Puppy stores tell customers what they want to hear to convince them to buy a puppy that's often thousands of dollars. They make promises of humane breeders and happy upbringings for these puppies, but again, that isn't in line with the facts. Predatory lending. Few can afford a pet shop puppy outright, so stores push puppy loans through third-party lenders, which often lead to more financial hardships. My colleagues confirm that all 15 stores in Nevada do offer puppy loans to their customers. Complaints show that consumers have ended up with interest rates as high as 188%. If you're wondering, how is this possible? Puppy lenders evade usury laws by partnering with FDIC-regulated banks. Sick people. The American Medical Association and the CDC have warned people of ongoing antibiotic-resistant infection outbreak from contact with pet shop puppies that has sent many people to the hospital. The reckless antibiotic use in this industry is just another example of its disregard for animals and consumers. And sick puppies. From the puppy mill to the long, stressful transport to the final pet store, these poor, only weeks-old puppies have the health deck stacked against them. Last year, an undercover investigation into 6 Nevada puppy stores revealed massive issues with sick puppies. At Puppy Heaven, one puppy, Cindy Lou, who, if you've seen our fact sheet, is the little Havanese that is featured in the picture. She was left alone to suffer in the back room. It was only after our investigator called law enforcement, who directed the store to take the puppy to the vet, that she was given care. But it was too late. Cindy Lou died at the vet. Cindy Lou continued to be showcased to customers on social media as available to a loving home, even after her death. And also at Puppy Heaven, many other sick puppies were denied urgent care vet visits. Staff treated sick puppies with themselves with ad hoc remedies, and the manager told law enforcement she wasn't aware that state law required her to have puppies declared healthy by a veterinarian before sale. At Puppies for Less Cheyenne, a tiny Chihuahua was coughing, refusing to eat, and having trouble breathing. Rather than rushing him to a veterinarian, staff put him in a makeshift nebulizer, which was made out of one of those plastic storage bins with like holes drilled in it. His ultimate fate is unknown to us. At Puppies for Less Sky Point, there were many sick puppies, and one puppy recently sold had parasites and kennel cough, but the customer was only refunded $60 for vet care. Now, I don't know if any of you have been to the vet recently, but $60 will barely cover the cost of a basic exam. At Puppies for Less Sahara, an employee described the store's attitude toward customers. Quote, "Your puppy will get sick. It will happen. Buyers are required to sign a form that limits the ability to return the sick puppies or obtain reimbursement for veterinary costs. And at Petland Henderson, there were many sick puppies, including those with signs of respiratory illness and a puppy with a mass on his head. Staff were medicating the puppies with oral syringes that they were reusing. Many sick puppies do make it long enough to be sold to a home and to have a loving family, but that family often suffers immense emotional and financial toll. I can tell you, having worked in veterinary medicine most of my adult life, how devastating this is for the families involved. So, why is AB 487 the solution? Stopping the sale of puppies in pet shops entirely is the only solution to the wide-ranging problems that puppy stores pose. The whole system is far too broken to try to fix it. And in the end, there is no way you can do the wrong thing, the right way. Fortunately, the right thing here is also the business-friendly thing. The vast majority of pet stores in Nevada already do not sell puppies, but rather thrive as part of the $147 billion pet products and service industry. In fact, the number of Nevada pet businesses that have endorsed AB 487 outnumbers that will be impacted by it. Only 15 stores still sell puppies in Nevada, and 27 stores have already signed on to a support letter urging the passage of the bill. These 27 stores feel so strongly that no pet needs to be, nor should be, sold in stores that they are supporting a bill to ban the practice adhered to by only outliers in the industry. Pet stores currently selling puppies will have to the end of the year to transition to a new business model. As one Clark County store told media after the ordinance passed, losing the ability to sell puppies isn't a big deal because there are other profit streams. That store is now an Asian-inspired grooming spa and complied with the Clark County ordinance even before they were required to. AB 487 also is a common sense solution to our puppy store problem because no Nevada needs a pet store to find the dog of their choice. Our region has a wide network of shelters, rescues, and reputable breeders who sell directly to the public because they aren't ashamed to show where and how these dogs are raised. And while the focus of this bill is on the pet shop component, it also tackles puppy sales in public places. We already ban the sale of puppies in swap meets here at Nevada, but AB 487 expands the prohibition to public parking lots and roadsides. Puppy mills need to sell from places where the public only sees the cute puppies, not the conditions the parent dogs are kept in. So this bill cuts off another way that cruel breeding operations can continue. And lastly, this bill will help ease the burden on our overwhelmed shelters. It's unfathomable to continue importing these pets into Nevada when our shelters are bursting at the seams with available pets for adoption. Pet shop puppies and those sold in public places are likely to be sick or have behavioral issues, and this means that they'll be relinquished to our local shelters and rescues. These two outlets also thrive on impulse sales, so even if the puppy is healthy, sometimes people quickly realize they can't care for a young puppy and surrender it to the shelter for that reason. We love our pets here in Nevada, and allowing pet shops to import thousands of puppies from awful puppy mills and selling them like mere products is not in line with who we are. Simply, it's not the Nevada way. AB 487 can bridge that divide and allow us to bring our nation one big step closer to that day when puppy mills no longer exist. Thank you for your time and consideration on AB 487, and we are ready for questions.
Actually, I believe Mr. Hardy also had a question, or a statement he'd like to make.
I don't think I'm allowed to ask questions.
No, you're not. No questions for you.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Warren Hardy, representing Humane World for Animals. It's really kind of an honor for me to be here with Chair Anderson. I had the distinct honor of serving with her father. We were freshmen together in 1991, in fact, shared an attaché and had many delightful conversations about U.S. and Nevada history. Loved him dearly. It's also a pleasure for me to work with the folks at Humane World for Animals, formerly HHUS, and Rebecca and the team. They have world-class subject experts there, and I would like to indicate that we have one of them here today. Amy Jesse's here to answer any questions. But the thing I wanted to add to this, if you were to follow my career, which I don't know why anybody would, but I one of the things I was confronted with very early on is what is the real function of government to get involved? I was sort of a laissez-faire. The function of government, the role of government to get involved in business was fairly limited. And I set up a set of parameters for myself to decide when and where the legislature had an appropriate business getting involved. This checks every single box for me. We talk a lot about the consumer protection, which is one of those major boxes. But
I feel very strongly and have through my career. I was first introduced to this puppy mill situation by then Senator, now Congresswoman Titus, who had a bill on this. I had no idea how bad it was, these puppy mills where we get these puppies. And I think we have a real moral obligation as a legislature and as Nevadans, not only to look at the consumer protection, but also look at how these animals are treated. We all have pets, we all have dogs. I'm somebody that has to get a hypoallergenic dog because my kids have allergies. And there are so many wonderful breeders out there, and the access to these are just wonderful without going to these puppy stores. So I really feel strongly that this is a legitimate area where the legislature should check in and have a say to make sure these animals are not mistreated before they get to our homes. So I just wanted to add that, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Now we're ready for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Members, do we have questions? Okay, I think we'll start with Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Very stirring. Looking through all of the testimony that's been provided on Nellis, I was very surprised at the organizations that came in opposition, given their mandate for the businesses or the advocacy they do. And so that was surprising to me. And one of the themes they talk about in talking about other states and what's happened when they've banned the sale of pets in stores is the development of the black market for animals. Does this bill address that? And are we setting up another problem rather than just fixing one?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. This is Assemblymember Anderson for the record. It does not address that, but I do think possibly that Ms. Jessie might make sense to, if there is a way to be able to possibly ask if there's other states that have dealt with that. But this bill does not actually address that black market that you're speaking about. Ms. Jessie, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure, I'm happy to. Hope y'all can hear me okay. This is Amy Jessie, just again with Humane World for Animals. So to the point of the black market, this bill doesn't directly address that, but there's also absolutely no evidence from the 8 other states that have this law in the books that these laws drive anyone to a black market. I also just want to be really clear that it's dishonest to refer to online sales as a black market because since 2013, the federal government regulates online sales the same as it regulates those who sell to pet stores. So it's the same regulation. If you're a commercial breeder that needs a USDA license, you have to adhere to the same standards if you sell to a pet store or if you sell online. So it's not really black market if there's unlicensed entities selling dogs online. I hope that our opposition will join my organization in reporting them to the USDA because they should be licensed as a broker. And I also just want to explain a little why we haven't seen this evidence of this shift online, which is what is referred to when the black market is referred to. A couple of things. Pet shop customers want to meet the puppy in person. They want to go, they want to interact with the puppy. A lot of people go more than once. It's a big decision. These puppies are really expensive. They want to interact with the puppy. That's not possible online. So to think that everyone that might go to a pet store would then just go order a dog online and then the dog gets dropped off at your house from a van, that's just not realistic. And as Rebecca mentioned in her testimony, I can't stress enough how much pet stores rely on impulse sales. There's a reason they're in high foot traffic areas. They want, you to walk by with your kid and they say, oh my gosh, look at all those cute puppies, and go in and buy them. Those people often were never looking for a puppy in the first place. So that's not like some void that someone's filling. And those impulse purchases are huge for pet stores. And so no one's even looking anywhere else. They weren't looking for a puppy in the first place. And then last, I'll just say that this bill doesn't just target pet stores, it also addresses those public places sales. And if there was a black market for puppy sales, that would be it. It's those parking lot sales, it's those street side sales where someone falls for that cute puppy, or maybe they're stuck in the heat and they feel bad and they end up buying the puppy because they just feel so bad for the puppy, and then those people are nowhere to be found. That I would say is a black market, and this bill addresses it. But what the opposition is referring to as a black market, that's not really the reality for all the reasons I mentioned. So hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. We will go to Assemblymember Gur.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I'm concerned about how you define a legal breeder and how that goes if you're breeding show dogs, you're breeding stock dogs, you're breeding working dogs. How do you, is there a license procedure for these folks, or does this bill address or not?
So sorry, I was distracted a little. This is Assemblymember Anderson. Ms. Jessie, could you put your computer on mute really quickly? I was a little bit distracted by that. I do not believe so, but did you want to add to that, Ms. Goff?
Could you repeat the question?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm not really sure I can, but I'll try. Does it have to be verbatim? Okay. I'm concerned that the bill isn't clear enough about making sure that legitimate breeders are in line with being able to sell their dogs and how they sell their dogs, and stock dogs, working dogs, show dogs don't always go through a process. Are they licensed? So a legitimate hunting dog breeder, what if you just train 3 or 4 dogs and want to sell one to your neighbor? Who knows you're doing it right? Is that covered in here? Are they going to be illegal?
Straight to the chair. Okay, yep, you got it.
May I answer the question? Yeah. Okay, may I go direct? That's what I'm supposed to say. Thank you. Assemblyman Gur, that's certainly not the intent. Oh, Rebecca Goff. And I think what this bill, why we're trying to be specific about the public places, is that most reputable breeders will have you come to their facility, whether that is their farm, their ranch, their, home in many cases, especially if it's a small hobby breeder, like a show breeder. They will have you come. You meet the parents usually of the dogs, and you come see the facility, you see where the animals are raised. When you look at the requirements or recommendations for what a reputable breeder is, both on our website and even on the AKC's website, it does mention that it's important to go to the home of the breeders and see the animals that you're going to meet. So most of those people that you described do operate in that way, and they're not like bringing a truckload of puppies to Walmart. So I hope that answers the question, and I can also defer to Amy if we need more follow-up.
Chair, can I follow up? Thank you for that. I wanted to get it on the record that this bill, the intent of this bill is not to impact the legitimate people out there, because I really feel strongly that the illegitimate ones need to be cleaned up.
Vice Chair Warren Hardy, if I could just quickly address that. We're concerned about that too, Assemblymember. Like I said, my family has to get purebred pups. I used to have hunting dogs, and so there's very specific breeders that you go to. We're very interested in making sure that folks still have access to that. So if there's language that we need to clarify in this, we're concerned about that as well. Really, we didn't want to clamp down too much. The reality of it is we've got to cut off the supply from these puppy mills in the Midwest. That's where the violence is being done. But we don't want to impact the legitimate breeders and the folks that breed these animals and sell them, because I can tell you, we had a Havanese, so I'm really sensitive to Cindy Lou. And I'll tell you, when we picked her up, it was a breeder in Southern California, and I would like to live where that dog lived. It was beautiful. There was big, fields, and so we don't want to discourage that type of activity. It's the puppy mills that are doing so much damage.
And I'm going to add to this too, if I may, Assemblymember Anderson, for the record. So growing up, I had a dog named Maximilian von Pooper, who was a wire-haired pointer, and it was purebred. I mean, it was a great dog. It just happened to be that a friend of ours had bred the animal to be a hunting dog. My family did not hunt, but we were friends with these individuals that did, and this Maximilian was the best. But like, these animals were taken care of. And so that's one of those important things, because then just a few weeks later, after we got Maximilian von Pooper, who I just like calling him by his last name, we were having to be in a pet store. I can still remember this vividly. And, you know, my dad was like, oh, look, another dog. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's up with this? Because the conditions are nowhere near as clean, as safe, and as just comforting to the pet as they should be.
Thank you. Pretty sure, Chair, you told that story just so you could say the name of your dog on the record.
Vice Chair, that's correct.
All right, we will go to Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you so much for this presentation and bringing to light a lot of these issues. And I'm going to put my dog's name on the record too. So, at the risk of sounding like one of the people that was just described, I went on, so we were recently looking for a dog, and I went online, and it's overwhelming to look at, like, I gave up. There's hundreds and hundreds of pages of dogs and breeders, and we also went to shelters and looked, and for some reason it was just not a right fit. I wanted a smaller dog, and we ended up at a pet store. And we recently bought Kingo, who has been added to our family from a pet store. And yes, when I brought him home, he did have kennel cough. And we had to go to the vet, and we had to take care of those things. I guess my question is, you know, the other areas didn't work. And we were the person that was described that we wanted to go in, and we wanted to touch and feel, and we wanted to see the dog's personality. And that's what worked for us. It's horrific to learn about these conditions, but it sounds to me like my only option under this bill would be only going to a shelter or from a breeder to get a dog. And the breeder would only, I guess, I don't know how many, I was overwhelmed trying to find breeders on the website, and where would I go to be able to touch and feel? I feel like some of the options, and I don't like what I hear about these stores, and so I'm just wondering what are the options for, you know, like somebody like our family, we wanted to go and touch and feel the pet as well.
Vice Chair, may I go direct? Thank you. Thank you for the question. And that's, I think, a situation that people often find, Rebecca Goff for the record. I think that is a situation people find themselves in. I know personally, I'll be frank, when I got my first puppy when I got married, it was back in 2012, and my husband was active duty. And a lot of shelters at that time had barriers to being able to adopt to an active duty military family. They thought that maybe if we got transferred, we wouldn't be able to take the puppy with us, even though I worked in vet med and processed health certificates all day. I knew how to do it. And it did drive me to Craigslist. And I found a nice puppy on a farm, so I got to go meet the family. I got to go meet the dog. Now, I would definitely advise against doing that now that I know more. I've learned so much. I would definitely look at shelters first. If you are looking for a specific breed, there are a number of breed-specific rescues across this country. Our breed of choice is a Cocker Spaniel. And when we lost Ginger Ale, was my dog's name, last year, actually a year ago on Saturday, we lost her. I started looking at every single Cocker Spaniel rescue in this country because I was dedicated to finding that breed, as well as all of our local shelters. And I'm not going to lie, it is some work to find the specific dog that you want. But luckily, a dog, Tina Turner, popped up on Rescue, which is a local rescue in northern Nevada, and she was the perfect fit for us. If you wanted to feel and see and touch the dog, I would recommend looking for reputable breeders. You could start at the AKC website, does list, if you're looking breed specific. We also, on our website, Humane World for Animals, do have a guideline for how to find reputable breeders as well. And that can help you narrow it down. And once you get in communication with that breeder, you can arrange visits and things like that. Every breeder has different, obviously, protocols that they could follow. I would say it does take some time, and this is no judgment of anybody who gets from a pet store. I think most people don't know the conditions that they come from. I know that I certainly didn't until I got into this industry. It's not a common knowledge thing, and that's for a reason. So I hope, does that help answer the question? If I can also defer to Amy if we need any further specifics.
Yeah, I don't know if it sounds like it's more effort, so to speak, and maybe that's what we need to look at, but thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, my dog's name is Pip.
And for the record, that was Warren.
Warren Hardy. I actually do have a response to that. Fear of missing out. What do you want? Pippity Pip Pip, to be exact. Yes, there are resources. It is more work, but it's worth the effort. And the American Kennel Club has lists of preferred breeders. The Humane Society of the United States, what's our new name? Humane World for Animals has lists of good breeders. So it is more work. There's no way I can deny that. And really, the people I feel bad for are the individuals such as you, because I bought my dogs there as well for that exact reason. Because you can go in, they put you in a little room until you find out it's, $7,000. But yeah, that's the main thing. And there are options. It is more work, no question about it. But we are working to do a better job of making sure individuals understand how to get these animals from reputable breeders. And it's amazing to me, and the Humane Society does a great job on the breed-specific rescues that they're out there. I mean, French Bulldogs are a very popular breed, are a very difficult breed. And there's ways to get a French Bulldog through a rescue. So it is more work. I don't know how to avoid that. I'm just going to say from my experience, it's worth the effort.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go to Assemblymember Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I know in your presentation you mentioned that there were 2 pet stores that have been violated and they continue to do these practices and they stay open. My question is, what is the consequence? What is the violation? In my mind, it must not be nothing too severe for them to continue business. And for the record, my dog name is Daisy.
Assemblymember Anderson, for the record, thank you. I know Daisy, I'm sure, misses you. On page 7, though, you'll see under section 14 that we do have the violations are present about the posting of information. I'm not sure, though, if it is also in a different area about those items that has to do with the sales. So we're looking for that right now. But on section 14, we do have the first violation, second, and subsequent violations listed. I don't believe we have it all in there at this time, though. We're looking. Assemblymember Anderson, through the vice chair to Assemblymember Jackson's answer. We will get back to you and we'll make sure that the entire committee has that same information.
And I would say, Warren Hardy, I would add that the violation, the consequences of violation now are very limited at the local level, as are most things. It requires a legislature to check in on some of these things to make sure we have penalties that will actually cause a deterrent to bad actors.
Thank you. We look forward to that information coming. All right, we will go to Assemblymember Karas.
I don't think I need to tell anyone here about nutmeg. Y'all have met her. However, I know we've spent a great deal of time here talking about finding that perfect puppy, but there's a lot to be said about what these same pet stores do on the financial end. Because before Nutmeg, I know there was a world before her, I went to a pet store maybe a decade ago or so. And very cute little puppies, $4,000. I bought fell off the chair and I'd already fallen in love with the dog, but I was like, well, and then they brought you could finance it. And by the time I would have been done, that puppy would have cost $12,000. That's insane. So my question is this. If you want everyone to go to breeders now instead of a physical store, how are we preventing this third-party lender gouging?
That's Madam Vice Chair Warren Hardy, that is an excellent question. This bill doesn't get into that. However, we probably should. This is not, and I'm not saying in this bill, but the legislature probably should look at those predatory lending practices, because this is not just happenstance. This isn't just the fact that once you fall in love with a puppy, you can get a loan at 80% interest, or in some cases 150% interest. This is a business model. That is the intent. That is what they're doing here. And that's where this becomes a consumer protection law. And I'm a little hesitant to say this is about consumer protection, but it is a big part of it. We're involved because of the animals, because of the violence that is done. I don't know how else to say it, the violence that is done to these animals. But that is a very great question, and something that the legislature at some point should concern itself with, because as I said, it's not just happenstance, it's the business model. It's the bait and switch, if you will, the business model.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My dogs are Luna and Freya, by the way. There will be a quiz later, so be prepared. All right, we will go back to Assemblymember Jackson as a second question.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. How does Assembly Bill 487 address the welfare of animals by prohibiting the sale of dogs and cats in retail pet stores and public places?
Vice Chair, may I go direct? Thank you, Assemblymember Jackson. The first thing it does is it stops that puppy mill to pet store pipeline. If you've not had a chance to look at Rebecca Goff, sorry. If you've not had a chance to look into what puppy mills are, they're essentially factory farms for dogs. They have dogs kept in small crates. Generally, it's barely big enough for them to stand up, maybe turn around. They usually have wire bottoms, so their little paws are always like on the wire going through. And they breed the dogs as often as they can. So for a female dog, she usually goes into heat twice a year. So she's having 2 litters a year, every year, from the moment she goes into heat at about 6 months of age until she no longer proves to be functional or effective for that. In that case, they could be euthanized or who knows whatever else they do to them. Occasionally you do see them pop up at rescues, but oftentimes, unfortunately, they meet the other fate. There's no concern for the welfare of the parents. In that case, the male dogs live just as bleak a life. They're contained to crates as well. They're often stacked on top of each other, so one is defecating on the one below, and therefore it keeps going on like this. It is truly atrocious, and I wanted to save those photos, but we can also show them. So number one, stopping that pipeline. Those are massive operations in the Midwest. We thankfully do not have a puppy mill by that definition in Nevada, thankfully. Nevadans wouldn't tolerate it, I think. And so that's what a puppy mill is and why we want to stop that pipeline in here. Additionally, you're taking essentially infants, like 8-week-old puppies, putting them on a truck and shipping them across the country like they're T-shirts. That's not a good situation for that puppy either. Both physically, they face a lot of health challenges coming from the situation I just described, and the stress of the trip. Imagine if you were, say, a 2-pound, 8-week-old Chihuahua and you suddenly got put in a crate and put in a box and shipped across the country. It's a terrifying experience for them. And then you're put at a pet store in a little display. Sometimes it's a window display, like a little box. Sometimes it's an open display where people can pet you, reach in and pet the puppies. Those are also not great conditions for pets for the similar reasons. They're constantly on display. They're never getting a chance to hide or have a quiet moment. And then the illnesses that we've discussed as well. As we've seen in some of these pet stores, like in the undercover investigation, staff members are doing the best they can by trying to provide what they think is veterinary care, but I can tell you from the veterinary side, it's not. They might take a remedy that worked for one thing and try it on other pets. And that is a hazard for those as well. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, my last question, just to close it out, is you touched on the consumer protection, which I think is huge. We talked about the animal welfare, but you mentioned initially the public health aspect. And so I wondered if you could just explain how this is also a public health issue.
I'll go direct. Rebecca Goff. I'm going to answer this question, then I'll defer to Amy for any follow-up. A couple of reasons. One is definitely the overuse of antibiotics in the industry. As we know, in human medicine, people are becoming, or not people, bacteria are becoming resistant to certain strains of antibiotics, and that's because of overuse. This is a problem that we really see commonly in this industry. The second is intestinal parasites. So very commonly, puppies at these pet stores have a variety of parasites. Roundworms is a very common parasite, even in a regular puppy. It's, carried from fleas, so that happens. Giardia is a very, very common one. Both of these are zoonotic diseases, meaning if you handle the animal or the feces, you could potentially get it yourself. Now, as adults, we know to wash our hands and things like that, but where we really see this be a problem is for children. Children, like puppies, explore the world with their hands and their mouths, and they'll play with the puppy and touch the puppy, and then they'll go eat some snacks, and now you've got, potentially parasite ova on your hands, and now you put it in your mouth, and now we have worms. So that is the most common things that I can think of off the top of my head. Amy, am I missing anything?
Yes, hi, Amy Jesse again. I would just add to that the specific issue that the American Medical Association and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention warned the public about was called Campylobacter. It was an infection, and it was traced to contact with pet shop puppies. And the reason it was so serious once humans got it was because it actually was antibiotic resistant. So normally if I got Campylobacter, I would just go get antibiotics. It wouldn't be a big deal. But when people did that, the antibiotics did nothing. And so people were hospitalized. People were taken away in an ambulance. I mean, people were getting really, really sick from this antibiotic resistant outbreak, which again was only linked to pet store puppies. The CDC was very clear. This was not a problem in really any other outlet except this puppy mill to pet store pipeline. It was traced back to one massive broker in Indiana, which, buys puppies from a bunch of different puppy mills and then, spreads them out to pet stores around the country. And this was, again, traced back to this really reckless antibiotic use where it turns out that this industry, whether that's at the puppy mill or at the broker or at the pet store, the CDC did a study and found that 95% of pet store puppies received antibiotics. That's huge. That's just, even I was shocked by that number. And a quote from one CDC official trying to explain why this was so serious, he said, "The puppy story is not over. It is difficult to control a whole system that lacks hygiene at many points and seems to use antibiotics instead." And I just think that really sums up, this issue. And next it could be something else that's also antibiotic resistant, and that's a major public health concern.
Thank you so much. With that, we will now move on to testimony. So if you are here to testify in support of AB 487, please come on up to the table here in Carson. Remember to please limit your testimony to 2 minutes. And if you would like to ditto someone ahead of you, you are totally welcome and encouraged to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Tammy Wines Jennings, TammyWynes I'm the Assistant Director for Washoe County Regional Animal Services, and we are here in support of this. We are very limited in our enforcement powers for these kind of things, and we get calls all the time, and there's not much we can do. If there's a welfare issue, we can go look into it and stuff, but even then, we're extremely limited in what we can do for these poor animals. We get calls about animals on the roadside being sold. We get calls, when there were stores open in the Reno Sparks area, we were getting calls and complaints by people and talking about the thousands and thousands of dollars they were having to spend on their animals afterwards because they were so sick and those kind of things. Another thing that we see, and some of the questions you had, we see a spread of parvo coming from these areas. When you walk into a puppy store, if there was any parvo, there's no disinfection, anything like that. You could walk through, it's on your shoes, you walk home, you take it home, anywhere that you might come in contact, you've now spread parvo through the entire area. So we are greatly in support of this particular bill. Thank you so much, and Ozzy Posborn, Prince of Barkness, is my dog. Thank you.
That's a great name.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jeff Rogan, Jeffrogan, and on behalf of Clark County, I'm happy to testify in support of this bill. Several years ago, Clark County passed a similar ordinance to prohibit the sale of cats, dogs, and potbelly pigs at pet stores, and it's been, we believe, effective in curtailing the animal abuse that's been testified today, especially the puppy mill to pet store pipeline. The problem that arises is what was referenced to earlier in the testimony, is that even though we do it in our jurisdiction in Clark County, other jurisdictions that don't do it, the bad actors simply just move to those jurisdictions. So it's important that this bill passes so that we have a statewide policy that covers every single jurisdiction, not just Clark County or other counties that follow that lead. So I urge your support, and I thank the Assemblywoman for bringing this bill forward.
Anyone else in support here in Carson? Okay, we will go to Elko, in case someone pops out of the wall. All right, we will now go to Las Vegas. Anyone in support in Las Vegas?
Hello, my name is Christy Stevens, CHRISTY, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am the Executive Director of Hearts Alive Village, an animal welfare nonprofit based in Las Vegas. I'm here to speak in strong support. Our organization's Veterinary Forensics Division investigated 2 particular cruelty cases in 2024 where retail puppy stores were involved. In one, a woman was repeatedly sold Yorkie puppies from a pet store even after the store became aware that the puppies were dying in her care. The store continued to sell her dog after dog. The 17 dead Yorkies were found in her freezer. In another case, the 10-week-old puppy named Cindy Lou did not receive the urgent care she needed. Employees with no veterinary credentials are told to follow internal protocols designed to save money by delaying costly outside veterinary care. And precious time was wasted while employees attempted to treat a serious illness in-house. Cindy Lou needed immediate medical attention, but she was not prioritized. When we performed a necropsy on her tiny body, it was devastating to realize that had she received proper care in time, she might be alive today. Her story is a heartbreaking example of what happens when profit is placed above animal welfare. These are not isolated incidents. They are a part of a systemic problem. Retail pet stores prioritize sales over welfare. They are allowing suffering to continue behind glass windows and marketing. I support this bill because we need to stop treating dogs and cats as products for profit without consideration for the outcome of their lives and the needs of their health and well-being. Let's stop the suffering here in Nevada at the source and build a system that puts lives over profit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else not in frame in Las Vegas? Okay, then AVH, we will go to the phones. Is there anyone on the line in support of this bill?
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 487, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, Chairwoman Anderson. This is Hillary Gray, spelled Hilarie, last name Gray, Grey. I'm CEO of the Animal Foundation in Las Vegas, which is Nevada's largest open admission animal shelter. I am unequivocally here to support this bill. I can't state strongly enough the need to pass AB 487 and to emphasize the difference it'll make. Here on behalf of the shelter dogs, including my own Toffee is my dog's name. Our shelter, like many across the state, is facing a critical overcrowding crisis. One of the driving forces behind this is that continued availability of puppies through retail pet stores, many of which source animals from those out-of-state puppy mills and unregulated breeders. We see animals come into our shelter regularly who were purchased through puppy mill pet stores and other illicit breeders, many of them suffering from serious medical issues, including congenital defects and untreated illnesses that are a direct result of irresponsible breeding and inadequate care. To echo Christy, it is heartbreaking what you see. There are so many ways that Nevadans can find the pet of their choice without going through these predatory operators. The variety of dogs and puppies available for adoption is nearly infinite. I'm here to tell you we see everyone, all breeds from Yorkies and French Bulldogs to Golden Retrievers and Great Danes. They all come through the shelter right along with all the mixes who are wonderful, loving pets as well. There are also so many breed-specific rescues we work with, and as you've been talking about, the responsible licensed breeders. This bill also provides that path for responsible businesses to partner with shelters and rescues, which is most welcome with models to draw from in other communities. My family in Los Angeles sees this all the time. Banning the puppy mill stores statewide, to echo another comment that was made, is critically important in order to ensure these bad actors don't just move their operations on to the next jurisdiction, in the process undermining the good efforts of others. After Clark County passed its ordinance, the puppy mill stores moved right into the city limits of the city of Las Vegas, and we've been told that license applications for similar stores have increased tenfold. That is incredibly discouraging. So for all of these reasons, to protect animals, to protect consumers, we strongly urge the passage of Cindy Lou's law, AB 487. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello. Hello, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Nick Marquardt, Nick Marquart. Today I'm testifying in support of Assembly Bill 487. My wife and I have had the privilege of owning 3 dogs together. 2 of them are sadly no longer with us, but each of them imparted a really distinct character in our house. And for how loving and happy our time was with them, the histories that they had were anything but. I'm going to tell you quickly 3 stories of them so that you can understand who they were. And these were animals that came from a pet store or a parking lot and then were abandoned. Our first dog, Squiggy, was adopted and returned to the shelter because the previous owner had a monkey that terrorized him. There was so much abuse that to this day, even at 16 years old, he's scared to walk through doorways and upstairs, and oftentimes it forces us to carry him because his anxiety is too high. After years of training and love, he still has aggression issues, and we don't take him out in public because of that. Now, this was a $100 dog that we got from the animal shelter, and he's now going on his 16th year, and we love him to death, but we were able to interact with him directly and take him home the day that we found him. Our second dog, Roosevelt Truman, was a small 19-pound pug that was found in a dog park. He had puncture wounds all over his body. There was duct tape wrapped around his muzzle. It made it impossible for him to defend himself, and he was found with his left eye hanging out of his head. And this was all because he was considered bait by somebody that felt that they could abuse him. Someone thankfully had called the Southern Nevada Pug Rescue at the time to come pick him up, and they rushed him into surgery to save his life. Literally, after thousands of dollars, multiple surgeries, and the removal of that left eye, we were able to take him home after weeks of healing. Even after 15 years of ownership, we were never able to take him out in public because he was so terrified of other animals that he would get aggressive, and we wouldn't want to ever put him into that position of anxiety where he saw other animals as a potential threat. And our third pug, a little girl named Eleanor.
Just hit 2 minutes. If you could just wrap it up into a closing statement. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. After rescuing our dogs, we continue to donate our time to rescues and places that actually did the work the right way. We were involved with multiple surrenderings because people had dogs that they couldn't take care of or they abused. We have shelters all around the country, all around the state, all around the county that have dogs that are easily met. You can interact with them. They're not expensive. Unfortunately, many of these places have to close their doors because it becomes too expensive to take care of these dogs that are abused. If we close these puppy mills,
And
we
we
no
are
longer
gonna
have a pipeline of abuse.
wrap up your comment, if you could. Thank you.
Okay, please support AB 487.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Chair, there are no additional callers to provide support testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. All right, we will now move into opposition. If you are in opposition to AB 487 here in Carson, if you could please come to the table.
Which button do I put? Oh, never mind, it's on. Thank you so much. My name is Alyssa Miller Hurley. I'm here on behalf of the Pet Advocacy Network. We are the advocacy voice for our members here in Nevada. One of them I have with me. And we represent the interests of retailers, manufacturers, and other experts that are within the responsible pet care community, including responsible breeders, hobbyists, and pet owners. While I could spend a bunch of time today talking about piece by piece some of the information that has been already stated, I do want to just hit on a couple points. The first being that pet stores are some of the most highly regulated source for pets. They have to abide by state licensing, federal licensing, and the Animal Welfare Act, in addition to only being able to work with licensed USDA breeders. Many of the breeders that were cited today and highlighted are those bad actors that we do want to see put out of business and are breeders that our pet stores do not work with. While bills like this are well-intentioned, they do not address the root of the problem, which are these bad breeders. In fact, we have seen bills like this be directly responsible for the black market puppy market. And I do want to address the fact that, the assertion that there is no proof. Unfortunately, we only have to look next door to California to see that there is, in fact, proof that these kinds of bills do result in an increase in puppies being brought in from out of state, from being purchased from places like Facebook, Craigslist, or from those who are posing as reputable breeders online. The average person doesn't know what to ask. The average person doesn't have time to necessarily go out of state to go see a dog. Unfortunately, I wish that was the case. The LA Times has written several scathing articles about the resulting action of the bill that was put in place in California in 2019. And in fact, the legislature this year in California has had to file multiple bills to address the problem that they have acknowledged was created by the enactment of the retail sales ban. We know that there is a lot to be done to make sure that we can protect animals. And rather than working on sweeping bans like this that end up creating more problems than they solve, we would welcome the opportunity to work with the Nevada Legislature to enact stricter sourcing regulations and restrictions to govern what kind of breeders our stores can work with, which is the best way to put those bad breeders out of business.
And could you just spell your name quickly?
Yes, of course. It's Alyssa, Alyssa, Miller, Miller, hyphen Hurley, Hurley.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Am I on? My name is Ken Kirkpatrick. I am one of your voting constituents and a Nevada resident, lifelong resident, UNLV graduate, all Nevada through and through. I bought the Petland franchise in Boca Park 4 years ago, primarily because my kids went there when they were 2 and 3, and now they're 20 and 30. Now my grandkids go to that store. Again, my name is Ken Kirkpatrick. It's Kenkirkpatrick. Our store has been in operation since 2001. For over 24 years, we've reached thousands and we sold thousands of puppies to grateful owners striving to meet the needs of both the owner, that's part of our Petland motto, meet the owner needs and the pet's needs. My 27 employees and I love caring for animals and providing our customers with the peace of mind offered in a pet store. Our Petland pet store was not mentioned in the Humane Society article. That they're able to select the right pet for their needs and know where it came from. We provide its medical history. They're protected under a warranty. Under current law, Nevada pet stores and licensed breeders are registered, inspected, and required to offer consumer warranties. In addition, our store provides 30 days of free pet insurance for every dog that goes home. So there's no reason for anyone to have a major bill. If any of our dogs are sick, we take care of it or we provide insurance for them. AB 487 is signed in, if AB is signed into law, pet fraud will continue to grow and backyard breeders will expand as families who can't adopt from shelters or rescues because they want a specific breed or they need a hyperallergenic dog or any other small children at home, other concerns like that. These families will no longer have regulated pet stores as an option. I encourage you to read the research that has happened in California, as she just mentioned. Pet stores were banned several years ago. Please take time to read Inside California's Brutal Underground Market for Puppies, Neglected Dogs, Deceived Owners, and Big Profits. I included a copy of that with this article that I submitted to your office. This was published by the Los Angeles Times on September 12th of 2024. Again, a copy was provided. I have so many other things I wanted to say, but I'm not gonna have time to address some of the points that were made. 2% of all dogs sold in the country are sold in pet stores. 2%. When I searched for the county ban, I looked at every.
We are at 2 minutes, if you could just.
Does anyone want to hear the rest of this, real quick?
You're welcome to
Okay.
submit it
Okay.
in writing, and it will be provided to the committee. But you can have a final closing sentence.
My final thought is this: is that we provide 2% of the pets in the pet store. Or pet stores sell 2% of all dogs that are sold in the United States. When I did a study for the county when we're having their meetings about their ban, and I'm not even in the county, but I wasn't in support of their ban. I looked at the Animal Foundation. There was 200 dogs on the site that day when I looked at it. In a population of 250 or 2.5 million people, it's really not that many dogs. The point I was gonna make there, I looked at every dog on the website. 52% of the dogs in the foundation were pit bull and pit bull mixes. We don't have a dog problem. We don't have a dog problem. We don't have a dog problem. We have a pit bull problem in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anyone else in Carson City in opposition? Anyone in Elko? Anyone in Las Vegas? All right, AVH, we will go to the phones.
Testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 487, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Chair Anderson and members of the committee. This is Bob Rilling Smith. That's BOB RILLING SMITH, and I'm with the American Kennel Club. We are in respectful opposition to AB 487. We view this bill as really two parts, which has not really been talked about yet. The first is the so-called pet store ban, which philosophically we oppose as it restricts choice and limits consumer protection. Banning this option has just been mentioned in other states such as California, does not talk or stop about this pipeline that has been mentioned. It just pushes it to unscrupulous brokers, like has happened in California. And I strongly recommend that the committee read the provided article in the LA Times. It's fantastic. It really shows the law of unintended consequences. The second component of the bill may have an unintended effect as well. As currently written, this bill would disallow previously arranged sales and transfers of pets. This is in addition to banning essentially people just selling pets in public areas, which we do oppose. But we worry, as it's currently written, the bill would prohibit the transfer of pets from responsible breeders, responsible consumers who have already prearranged the sale. We ask for your opposition to the pet store component and also to ensure that responsible breeders and consumers are able to meet up and to complete a sale that they've already agreed upon. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Hi there, my name is Vanessa Green, VANESSA I'm the store manager from Petland Henderson. I just have a couple of points. I've been here at the Petland Henderson location for about 3 years, and similar to what other people have said, banning stores, it has not proven to help shelters. Even in California, adoption rate is down by about 5.6%. The demand for puppies will not go away. I've heard of people being scammed daily. They call my store with these horrific stories of where they spent thousands of dollars in this place and that and the other. And I agree, sometimes a pet store is not the perfect fit for every single individual, but that's the consumer's decision to make, and eliminating that decision for them is not beneficial for them. A rescue does not meet everybody's needs, and sometimes it does meet people's needs. And that's what we're here to do at my location. We're dedicated to matching the right pet with the right customer. Sometimes the rescue works, sometimes it does not. So I hear plenty of people going online, and if that is, if people are content with regulating online, why are we not content with the USDA regulating the sources that we work with? Since 2023, Pelham Henderson has been dedicated to touring every single breeder that we work with, and we actually display the video tours that we take that have my store owners here, as well as the prices are also displayed on our windows for every single customer to see. We want the customers to have the choice. After seeing where these puppies come from, if they decide it's not a good fit for them, that's completely within their right. We work with, like I said, USDA certified breeders, but also Canine Care certified breeders that have an amazing retirement program. And we have a very low claim rate when it comes to hereditary congenital defects or viral disorders as well. We have a great protocol with our vet. We have health insurance for our puppies, warranties, and coaching available, as well as lifetime training assistance for our puppies as well. A lot of times pups will end up in shelters due to behavioral issues, and we do our best to coach every single customer and be an amazing resource for them. Our loans are not predatory. We have anywhere from as low as 11% to as high as 35.9%. We will not work with higher than that.
And you
we're
are
also
at
regulated
2
every
minutes.
6 months by animal control.
So if you could just wrap up. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you guys so much. Yeah, and in conclusion, I just want to really state how much this affects the reputable breeders, including my store owners who have worked with me and made sure I have health insurance during my cancer diagnosis. And I just don't think that the reputable people should be affected by this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Diana Kirkland, and I'm the owner of Petland Henderson, who sells puppies, kittens, and small animals. And I've been a long-term resident of Henderson, Nevada, and I oppose AB 487. We are fully committed to the health and well-being of our pets and our care. Petland Henderson does not purchase from hobby breeders or breeders who have had any direct USDA health and safety violations in the last 24 months. Beyond USDA requirements, we are committed to becoming 100% sourced by Canine Care certified breeders. We have personally visited every breeder from whom we purchase our animals from, and every puppy at our store has a video kennel tour of the facility where the puppy was born and raised, and that we've seen and personally inspected from ourselves. I'm here to voice my opposition to AB 487 on the basis that pet sale bans have proven not to be successful, but rather they create more unintended consequences. Improve regulations, but don't push market demand to unregulated breeding and foreign importation, which can increase the risk for disease and provide little to no protections for consumers. In a retail pet store, the consumer gets maximum protection in that they get to meet the puppy in person with a warranty in place and a claims process for any post-sale issues, enabling them to make the best decision for themselves and their families. Trust and allow Nevadans to make choices for themselves, the choices that are best for their families while affording them the protection they need to meet these puppies in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
There are no additional callers to give opposition testimony.
Thank you so much. We will now move on to neutral testimony. So if you are here in Carson and wish to testify in neutral, please approach.
Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Wachter, BRYANWACHTER, Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada. We just wanted to make sure to get on the record there had been some confusion amongst other stakeholders in the building. We are neutral on this bill. We do not have a position. Just saw the amendment, going to take a look at number 2, but we do not have a position on the bill.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in Carson? Anyone in Elko? Anyone in Vegas? All right, AVH, can we go to the phones, please?
Testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 487. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
CYRUSHOJJATY. I try to do opposition. I think I wasn't able to do it, so I'm just opposed. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we are in neutral, but we will move that testimony into opposition, and we will continue in neutral. Thank you.
There are no additional callers to give neutral testimony.
Thank you so much. We will invite the presenters back up for any final remarks.
The member Anderson, for the record, I want to first thank the committee. I have exchanged information with some of the individuals who have brought up opposition to try to get that information around the federal regulations, to try to get a little bit more information. And then also to clarify that because of some of the copyright information, we are not always able to get exhibits that might have been forwarded to us from newspapers. And so trying to make sure that they were aware of that and giving a few other ideas about it. But I am open to those discussions because I think one thing that was brought up, there are some very bad actors out there. We have a list of these individuals that are not just individuals, but like national organizations that are preying upon individuals, and those individuals' love of animals. And so we do have that list. So this bill is really trying to figure out a way to make sure that our animals, when we sell them to become our parts of our family, are actually treated with dignity and respect. So thank you so much, though, for this time and energy, as well as the questions. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will close the hearing on AB 487, and we'll take a brief recess while the chair makes her way back up.
Thank you for that. And so now we are back in, calling the meeting back in order. Thank you. And we'll actually end the meeting now with public comment. Again, thank you, Vice Chair, for being able to run the meeting. As a reminder, members of the public can provide comments in person, by phone, or submit written public comment to the committee's email up to 24 hours after this meeting. Instructions for providing public comment can be found on the agenda, including the call information. Again, public comment is not an opportunity to rehear testimony on a bill. We also ask that you please keep your public comment to topics within the jurisdiction of this committee. I would like to remind everyone that we encourage a clash of ideas, but we ask that individuals please refrain from personal attacks. And public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Staff will time each speaker during public comment to ensure everyone has a fair opportunity to speak. And finally, please remember to clearly state and spell your name. We'll begin with public comment from those in the physical locations and then move to anyone who has called in. Carson City? Seeing no one. Las Vegas? Seeing no one. Elko? Seeing no one. AVH.
If you would like to give public comment, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to give public comment at this time.
Thank you, AVH, and thank you everyone for your attention today to our meeting. That concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, April 9th at 4 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.